Games are a hobby for everyone. You don't have to be the best at them to have fun playing a game. While some people enjoy the laid-back style of games like Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley, others are hooked on the feeling of clutching up a match in Apex or saving a raid from a wipe in WoW. No matter what you play, there is something you like about it. For some, that's the competition, the hunger to reach the top of the ranks. Today, I want to take a look at what exactly sets those who compete apart from the rest, and just what it takes when you play a game at the highest levels. And before I forget, if you feel like you're getting value out of these videos, please consider subscribing and leaving me a comment. No matter the game, there are always going to be people who play them more seriously than others. For shooters, that's people who are playing with specific loadouts, aiming for the best KD. While for other games, that can look like someone with a fully decked out island on Animal Crossing, or someone with the best parses on WoW. But what exactly is the difference between those players and someone who is just trying to relax by playing these games? Now, while I could just say they're really sweaty or they just put a lot of time in, that doesn't really paint a clear picture. See, when it comes to someone who wants to play at the top end of a game's skill ceiling, there are a lot of different skills they need to have. For games like Apex and Call of Duty, you need to know what your loadout is going to be. Are you going to run an R301 or are you going to use a Mastiff? When it comes to shooters, a lot of the skills you focus on are learning positioning and callouts. Just because you have the best weapon doesn't mean you're constantly going to roll other teams. You need to know how to fight them, or else you're just gambling your chances of winning like a loot box opening. When you look at any player on an esports team or serious raider, you're always going to see the same things. First, they need to be comfortable within their role. Are they a really good in-game leader, or do they like to play more passively and react to the stuff around them? Everyone who seriously pushes ranks in competitive games are comfortable with playing in a group where everyone has these different jobs. I might be aggressive when I play ranked on Apex, but I also understand that there is a time and place to make use of that aggressiveness, while other times I'll quietly sit in a corner and watch the fight play out. You need to be conscious of those decisions while you're playing. Otherwise, you'll just become another number padding the KD of another team. Now, I focused a lot on Apex so far, but let's take a look at high-level players in WoW. Everyone has their own roles too. Some people will lead a raid without any problem, but let's take an even closer look at what makes a high-level player. A lot of WoW is about understanding how your class plays and deciding what abilities to use and when. Most players on WoW know about best in slot lists. These are pieces of gear that are exactly what they're called, best in slot. While the average player can find a page online telling them what would be the absolute best piece of gear for their character, there's more to it than that. For example, let's look at two Warlocks since that's what I play. The first Warlock is your average player following guides online about what to use. They might be decent at the game and know what abilities to cast, but when it comes to gear, they're just following what it says on their guide. Then there's the second Warlock, who has played MMOs for most of their life. They might not have the best gear when compared to the guide the first Warlock is using, but they seem to deal more damage in a raid. Now, why is that, you might be asking? If Warlock 1 is wearing the best in slot, then why are they not dealing the most damage? And that's a simple answer. Warlock 1 isn't thinking dynamically. Let me explain. While Warlock 2 is using worse gear from the guide standpoint, they're doing that because they understand the ins and outs of their role. They might have looked at what they were able to use currently, as opposed to just using whatever is listed on a guide. There is a good chance that they know they can use a different set of gear or different rotation in order to make full use of their options in the moment, instead of Warlock 1, who might not have the complete sets to make use of what that guide is saying just yet. A high-level player is going to think dynamically about what they can do to give themselves every advantage they can in the moment. The best players in every game are going to have an understanding of what's best to use at any given time, because they know how to weigh the different advantages they have, while someone who doesn't have that experience is going to be narrow-minded about what they can use, without giving themselves the chance to use something that could be better for the time being. Yeah, you might know what the best build is on a game, But if you don't know how to play around those things you're missing, then it doesn't matter because you don't know how to play with the hand you're dealt. See, when it comes to someone playing esports or just good players in any game, they're not just thinking about what they've heard is the best. Rather, they're open to different ideas and are willing to try out new things. A lot of people playing these games aren't taking the time to analyze where they can improve. Instead, they just blame the game for their own mistakes. When it comes to playing a game at a high level, it's less about your mechanical skill and more about identifying your own mistakes. Remember when you were in school and you'd have a practice test a week or two before the final? You'd fill it out and hand it in before getting it back and going over it. This wasn't just to fill time. Instead, this was your guide to figure out where you could improve. Maybe you didn't understand one of the subjects, but because you were able to see that ahead of the final, you were able to focus on that more when you went to study. It's the same thing when it comes to playing a game. If you're really serious about getting better at any hobby, be it games, lifting weights, or whatever else, you need to pay attention to what you're doing wrong. The best players in any game didn't just wake up one day and decide they were going to be monsters at them. They've taken the time to go over what they've been doing to try and find different ways to learn from those mistakes. Analyzing your mistakes is a crucial part to getting better at any game. For some games, like shooters, this is watching your matches and making notes of the different decisions you could have made, while for games like WoW, this is done by doing things like looking over logs and trying to figure out what would be better use of your skills for the next raid. Maybe you were using the wrong ability that has a higher damage to start, but drops off in the long run. Everyone that plays high level for games makes a point to go over what they're doing and are willing to try different things to get better. Everyone loves to be the best in their games. They might be the best when they start playing, but if they aren't willing to learn and try things differently, you're going to hit a point where your skills plateau. That's the difference with your average player and someone playing at a high level. If you're willing to put in the time and effort to learn all the ins and outs of what you're doing, then you'll be able to learn more about what you can do differently. Have those conversations with friends about what they're doing, and try and talk to the community about what's been working for others. If you take the time to really dive into a game, you'll notice how much fun it really is. Yeah, you're going to get frustrated when you play, but as long as you're aiming to get better, you're sure to see those improvements build up over time, until you're the one those new players are blown away by. And that's the difference between someone who's playing at a higher level than your average player. Have a good one. Peace.